Hi, everyone. Welcome to the How to Build a Team podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the best way to manage a remote team, and we have a very special guest. I met her when we were traveling. We did this Freedom Summit in Asia. So I met her personally. She's close to my heart. It was short but sweet. So her name is Michelle Abraham, and Michelle was speaking on stages about podcasting before most people knew what they were. She started a Vancouver-based podcasting group in 2012 and has learned the ins and outs of the industry. Michelle helped create and launched over 30 podcasts last year. So in 2018, she wants to launch yours this year, 2019. And we just launched our podcast with the help of her team, with the help of Michelle and Braden. So for 12 years as an entrepreneur and 6 years as a mom has led her to a lifestyle shift, spending more time with family while running location-independent online digital marketing business for the last 7 years. Michelle and her family have been living completely off the grid, lakeside boat access for the last 2 years. Isn't that interesting? So without further ado, let's welcome Michelle on the show. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, you guys. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, Pam, when we were in Asia, and a surprise to know that I actually met David in person in Vancouver years ago too. So
very small world.
It is such a small world. So what a great connection. And I love what you guys are doing, really helping entrepreneurs. And so I'm happy to be on your show to help other people realize that having a team is where it's at.
Yep.
It's funny when Pam introduced me to you and realized that we had actually met about a year, almost 2 years ago. And it was at a small seminar and you were talking about podcasting. And I'm like, just a fad. It's not going to catch on. Nobody's going to do that. And now I'm a little embarrassed because here we are doing one.
Here we are years later. I'm glad I didn't give up on it because I did have those thoughts as well that, podcasting, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to stay or if it's going to build up enough momentum, but sure enough, we were patient enough. And 5 years later, it's just going crazy now, which is awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great time.
Yeah. Actually, when we met, by the way, she's called the Podcast Queen. So yeah, Michelle, when we met, I'm like, during the Freedom Summit, I'm like, when I started talking and sharing my experience, I realized I really need to be heard. And luckily, I've been thinking about this for a year now, and we're kind of like, how are we going to do it? We need to find a team who will really know what they're doing. I know it's been running around for quite some time already. Everybody's doing podcasts, but I would like to have a team to work on that really knows what they're doing. And luckily I met you, so it's a blessing. So tell me about how you started podcasting.
Sure. Yeah. It's a funny story, and it starts in an unlikely place. It started in 2012 when I became a mom. And I know that doesn't really have much to do with podcasting and how I have it as a business now. But what happened was I found myself away from my clients and I had a fitness gym at the time and lots of boot camp locations. So I found myself away from work, sitting at home playing with this newborn baby who I loved, and I loved becoming a mom. But my business brain was like, we need some more information, and we need to keep active because we love the goo goo gaga stuff, but let's get some more business stuff in there. So I turned on my Apple TV and I saw this podcasting purple app. So I clicked on it and I was like, I wonder what kind of shows are on there. And I came across this show. It was by Jamie Tardy. It was called The Eventual Millionaire, and she was interviewing all these millionaires who were really successful business people, and just their stories really inspired me. And so I literally mass consumed all of her shows, and then I would wait every Monday morning and take my son for a walk in the stroller, listen to the newest episode as we were going for a walk. So, thanks to having kids, that's really what got me listening to podcasts. And then I realized I can actually listen to podcasts in my truck too, while I'm driving. I could listen to it while I was working out. I could listen to it while I was playing on the floor with my son, while I was cooking dinner, while I was cleaning. It just made like everyday lifestyle chores a lot more exciting and a lot more interesting because I was able to like fuel that business brain. And while I'm not living away from business, I was still able to keep up and be inspired. And when I came back to work and, things were on fire because my brain was like out already, like absorbing all that information. So
yeah, it's very convenient because you can take it with you anywhere, actually.
Yeah,
even when you're doing something else, you can also listen. Yeah.
I do 99% of my podcast listening is in the car.
Yeah,
Stuck in traffic on the freeway, and I'm listening to podcasts.
Yeah, Braden, my business partner and brother, he calls it traffic university with his son. They moved a little bit further away from the school, so they listen to the podcast in the car as they drive to school now, which I think that's great, right? And so the thing with podcasting, and I noticed these kind of things where people were taking podcasting to, it's not going to go anywhere because it's not interruption marketing. We're not interrupting them in the middle of their data. In the middle of their newsfeed to watch this video. They're seeking this out and they're going to be somewhere for 30 minutes. So they'll listen to you for 30 minutes and it's very intimate. So by the time they're done listening to your show, they're really wanting to work with you. They feel like they know you and they trust you and now they're ready to participate in a conversation with you. So it's really great marketing for businesses.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're a big fan of outsourcing. You've been outsourcing for quite some time. Can you tell us, when did you first realize that you needed help in your business? And how did that translate into outsourcing as opposed to hiring physical employees?
Yeah, my goodness. I remember even back to my fitness business where I was, not very good at graphic artist stuff. And I was like, I need to get this thing printed for a newspaper ad. And oh my goodness. And I found some sites that I was able to hire people through like Upwork, and it wasn't Upwork then, it was the other one I was before. Odesk, and then there was Fiverr and things like that. So I just started hiring people through there. But what I really, realized that was one way of doing the outsourcing. It really alleviated some of the pains in my business where I wasn't ready to hire a full-time graphic designer or a full-time marketing person. And I was pretty good at learning some of those things myself. But just having that, ability to hand something over to someone who's an expert at it and have them do it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. And at the same time, I did love using those sites, but what I realized is that I would find someone I really liked, and then all of a sudden they would disappear, or they wouldn't, I couldn't find them again, or it was time between that I needed them, and they were no longer doing that. So as time went on, I really started developing my own team and my own kind of the people that I needed the support of, and what it really did for me is it got me out of working in my business to be able to focus on my business and being able to go out and speak like we were doing in Asia, and speak and connecting with people and doing the things that I really enjoy doing.
No, that's so you said you were like hiring individual freelancers, somebody to do graphics and somebody to do this more task oriented stuff. But obviously now you have a very cohesive team that does that. And what sort of led you to go, you'd mentioned the frustration of people disappearing, but what sort of brought you along the path of building that team that has a little bit more longevity to it? And how do you run that team?
Yeah, it's interesting the way our teams kind of formed is, I was working for another company, and the other company had hired this woman, and she was fantastic. She was doing all these jobs that I was like, oh, I really need someone like that in my business to do some of those things too. So, I reached out to her, I said, hey, like, do you have time to do more than one client? And she said, sure, I'd love to start working with you. So I was able to get in when someone who has great skills was just starting their business in freelancing. And I was able to then grow with her. And so I always treat this is my first team member. We have several now, but my first team member, I've always treated her as like, I've asked her what her thoughts are on things and where should we go next with this program, or do you think this is working? So she's involved in the systems and structures. So I think one of the most important lessons I learned as an entrepreneur is that it goes back to the book, The E-Myth, right? Like at first I was the technician and I was doing all the stuff, and I thought I loved being the technician, and then I was like, I really don't like being the technician anymore. And we're not getting very far ahead because I'm being the technician. So then when I started working with with Erin, I asked her to, I'm more entrepreneurial. She's more systems and, strategies.
Project
And
management,
she was keeping us on track with things. So she was able to create some systems in our business to help create that, keeping me on track. And then I became a manager and I'm like, this manager position, now I'm overseeing a few people. I'm like, this doesn't feel like the exact spot for me either. I think I really I'm more like the visionary, the idea person. And my favorite thing in business is connecting with people, clients, customers, going and talking, speaking everywhere, and just, seeing how I can help other businesses and connect them with other people that will serve them. And that in return is always filled our business with lots of people. So I finally now been in that role. So we brought my brother on as more of in management position. So Brayden's been doing more management things. And we have Erin. She's now become a podcast manager. So she now manages podcasts for us as we started bringing on more podcast clients. And, that's been very successful. So now we have Erin and Jonathan, who are both podcast managers. And now we're going to start training some more podcast managers as we're growing. So our small little team is growing. And I think once we figured out that we were in the right roles, I'm not, my brother is not a visionary and he's not a technician. So he was good in the management role of overseeing things. I'm definitely good in the visionary role. So once we figured out that we were in the right roles, we were supposed to be, then things kind of clicked much better together.
Actually, while you're saying this, I remember my talk during the Freedom Summit. I talked about, for you to be able to grow your business, you really need to do 3 things. You have to know what tasks you don't like to do, tasks that you hate doing, and tasks you don't know exactly to do. So those are the things that you need to delegate, actually, for you to be able to grow. And what you did was you realized, good thing is that you realized that even though you love bits and pieces of some areas of your business, it's not really your role as the business owner. And you're supposed to be, as the business owner, as the CEO of your company, you're the one who should be doing and directing your team on what they need to execute. So your role is to strategize, plan, network, and meet your clients. That is awesome. I just want to share a little bit. I had this conversation, email conversation with Aaron. I was updating the spreadsheet that you guys provided us. And well, I'm huge in project management and this is what we do. So, she's like, I updated that. I put notes, I put the links of the files and all of that. And then I pinged her on Slack and I told her that, hey, we're done with this episode. The spreadsheet is done, already updated. Maybe you can take a look. And then I attached the link. And she's like, you're awesome. You speak my language. So I'm like, yeah.
Yes, yes. She was so happy. She was like, oh, you've moved up to number 1. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, because she's dealing with a lot of visionaries and entrepreneurs like me where I can't do that stuff. That stuff does not go into my those, Even even when we're sitting in meetings, right? I say, Brayden, make sure you're taking notes on this because I'm not taking notes.
Right. It's really important that you know the role in your company, and your role is the business owner. So how do you don't have a physical office. You're working with remote teams, remote workers. So how do you manage? I mean, what type of tools are you using to be able to manage, be away from where you are right now and be able to travel? You mentioned, we've met in Asia, we've met here in the Philippines. You've mentioned you've been to Las Vegas couple weeks ago, I think. So how are you able to manage them while you're away and being the CEO of your business?
Yeah, well, when you go away and travel from your business, you certainly learn what systems are not in place and what systems are, right? So everything runs tickety-boo. It was so great having Erin and Jonathan and Brayden all in place. One thing that I did learn, though, while I was away this last trip is that our sales didn't happen because I wasn't there doing sales. So we need to work on that and automate that as a business. So that was something that I'm really going to focus on now so that our income can go up even though I'm going away. So that's really important to us because right now it's a lot relying on me working with people and bringing people in and having one-on-one conversations. So yes, we need to automate a little bit of that, which is great. So that's something that we really see that's not solid. And I did also see earlier this year that our foundations weren't super solid. We grew super fast. And as a team, we've only been working together for a few years. And even with some of our newer members, less than a year. And, our foundation stuff wasn't quite solid, like the bookkeeping and the stuff that I don't want to do, like, the stuff like the CRM and getting everyone's addresses and phone numbers and just that basic stuff. And creating our client appreciation system and all that kind of stuff. So I actually hired another administrative assistant to help me with those particular tasks. And it's been great having him on board because he's been able to build that solid foundation. So now when I leave, I feel like our foundation is a little bit more solid each time we're adding a new system in place, which is really awesome. Now you asked me about tools. And I can totally answer that, but I want to put in perspective kind of where we are. So I am like on the other side of a lake, completely off the grid, but we have high speed internet. So it takes me 10 minutes by boat to get to my car. And so it's pretty cool. My son got to jet ski on his way over to the school bus yesterday morning as the second to last day of school. It's pretty neat. So we live here and then sometimes we're traveling in our RV in the winter. And sometimes we stay here for the winter, but we do like a lot of traveling. And so the internet's not super good. This is when I first noticed I really needed Aaron and my first team member because I was RVing and some RV places we would get to, I'd have to publish a podcast at a certain date, at a certain time, and I needed to have that internet speed to be able to do that. And we get to the location and the internet would be really slow or wouldn't be very good, or I couldn't get to a Starbucks that usually had faster internet. So that's when I really noticed I really needed to have that secondary person in place who is at a stable location. So Aaron is in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. My brother is also in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, and then Jonathan's in Oregon. So we do have and then Troy is our administrative assistant, and he's up on the Sunshine Coast. So Aaron and I have actually never met in person, and we've been working together for over 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we're planning to do some team building stuff coming up in the future, even though we are all so remote and we all live, quite far away from each other. I think it's important to get together maybe, we're trying to make it more than once every 2 years, but we're going to try to get together and do some team building. We're going to use our client, Kirsten Anderson, she does corporate team play, so she's going to do some Lego serious play with us. Anytime, it would be cool to meet in person and, we spend so much time online together.
That's our goal too. Yeah, that's our goal too. We have most of our freelancers are here based in the Philippines, but we are an island. Yeah. So somebody lives in north. I live in like south of Manila. Some are like super south of the Philippines. So, and then some are, outside the country. Yeah. So it's going to be tough to meet everybody in one place. But I think what keeps you moving and keeps you, growing is that you already built a system and a process. I think that's like what you're saying is that, you already built a system, though, not all systems and process of each companies are perfect. Everything is like, we are progressively, improving every now and then the process and the system. But I think if you have the foundation and the trust for whoever you hire, like you hired a project manager and that helped you a lot. We also have a client who was doing everything on his own when he started. And he was actually our previous guest. And then he realized as well, just like you do, he realized that he needed help. So the first person that he hired is a project manager, and then everything's history. Everything just, exploded, and it's growing, just like what your team is experiencing right now.
I think that you said the perfect thing was trust. Like, I think you really, as a business owner, you need to trust and also incentivize your team to want to grow with you. And we revenue share with our project managers and our podcast managers. because we want them to be invested in helping maintain those client relationships that we work so hard to bring into our business. And I think incentivizing them that way has been really helpful as well. And letting go control, like business owners, it's our baby. And it's so hard to like let someone else like do things for you. But you know what? The stress relief and like, I was said to my brother not that long ago, I'm like, I feel like I didn't really work this week. And like, but we did like, I did work, right? Like, so I had to double check myself. I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing anything, but we are doing important things and growing the business, but it's just so much less stuff than I had to do before all by myself, because now we have that support and that team in place and the foundation and the systems that we're refining. So yeah, if I can offer one word of advice to business owners out there that have not brought on a team, like, oh my gosh, just let go of that control and trust that they will do better than you can do.
No, I'm living that exact sentiment right now. Aside from Great Work Online, I have another business here in Metro Vancouver, and I have been pushing back at Pam. Like, I'm the co-owner of a digital outsourcing company. This is what we do. We help entrepreneurs build remote teams. And here I was being the perfect bad example of that. And it just, part of it comes down to the trust thing. And you hit half of my favorite quote. It's hire who you trust and then trust who you hire. And I don't know where I've heard that quote from. I'm going to just take it as my own. It's mine now. I own that one. But it's so true. You have to trust the people that you hire, and then, hire the people that you trust, and then just trust them. Let them do what you've hired them to do. Don't micromanage. Don't try and control everything they do. Give them clear instructions, clear expectations, and let them go. And I think you're really seeing that with your podcast managers, that they have tasks to do and you're leaving them to do those.
And I'm not trying to interfere either. Like so one of the tools, you asked me about the tools that we use, but I would not have a business if it wasn't for Zoom because we spend so much time on Zoom. But the second one that surprisingly has become like a really key piece in our programs is Slack, because each of our shows, as you guys know, has its own channel. And on that channel is the show host, myself, and the podcast manager. So I guess I can see and keep up to date with everything that's happening and pop in and congratulate and say how are things going whenever I want. But I can also then have the peace of mind and know that it's being taken care of because I can see the communications there. And I think that's key. Not that I don't feel like I trust my team enough that they are going to provide amazing service, but I like to also pop in and keep the relationship going with the customers that I've created, because we have a bit of an awkward funnel where they get to know me really well during the setup process and Brady really well. And then we're introducing them to a podcast manager. So we've changed some things up a little bit by introducing those podcast managers a little bit sooner in the process so that they feel like it's a team effort. And, I think that's another key point too, is that like your team needs to feel like they're a part of something bigger. Everyone wants to feel like they're a part of something and they're making a difference. So I think if your team can feel that way and make sure that they're invested in what you're doing as a team, then they're less likely to leave and go somewhere else, and less likely to, price check and, check on see, if someone else would pay more, or, I think they're more invested in your clients too, which is what's really important to me.
Like what Richard Branson said, you take care of your employees and then your employees will take care of your clients. That is very true. So you already know, Michelle, that when you hired somebody that you trusted, your business just grew and it's still growing tremendously. Now that podcast is really big right now. But can you give us like your top 3 advice, let's say, on that you would like to share to our listeners? How this building a team really helped you in freeing up your time to wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely. So my top 3 things that have allowed me the freedom in my business, I think that's the key thing. Not just freedom of space, but freedom of like mental space and freedom of freedom to do what I'm supposed to be doing and what I like doing in the business too. So I think one is invest in your team so that they grow with you. I think that's the number one thing for me. Invest in them, train them, treat them well, pay them well, do all the things that show them that there's, keep them involved in the future and the growth of the company so that they know what's coming and they can be excited about it and they stand with you. Number two would be, let go of control. Don't micromanage them. Just trust that they're going to do the right thing and do the right job. And number three is if mistakes happen, which they will, and it's inevitable, that it's the way you fix them that's going to be the real game changer. So if an episode goes up wrong, fine, no problem. Bring it down, fix it, and get it back up there as fast as possible and as quickly as possible, and triple check next time and make sure it doesn't happen again. So
learn from your mistakes, right? Yeah,
exactly.
So that is important too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I'm not gonna fire someone over making a mistake, but it's the way they handle the mistake and they handle it for our clients that's gonna make the difference of whether or not that client stays or goes.
Yeah.
So just handling it quickly and seamlessly, and making sure the client's happy is the number one thing.
Now that's the whole mistake thing is huge. It's prior, like my most recent or my last corporate job was an environment of a lot of stress, a lot of very, critical things going on. And we would prepare our new staff. One of the big things that we would train into them is you are going to make mistakes. Not saying, don't ever make mistakes, be really careful, be really sure what you do. We would prepare people right up front. You're going to make mistakes. And this is what you're going to do when you make a mistake. You're going to own up to it right away. You're going to do what you can to fix it. And you're going to learn from it so that the next time you make a new mistake, don't keep making the same mistake over and over again, because then we've got a problem because you're not learning.
That's right. I love that one. That's good.
It's so true that, employees are going to make mistakes. We as business owners and entrepreneurs, I make mistakes every day. And I try and make new ones. I try not to repeat the same old ones. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that to try and learn from other people's mistakes. But as business owners, we can't set an impossibly high bar for our teams that they're going to be afraid to fail or afraid to make mistakes. That just bring them out into the open, show them in the light.
Yeah, and if we're not making mistakes, we're not trying hard enough, and we're not advancing either, right? We're not growing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're almost out of time here, Michelle. So do you have a sort of a message or anything you'd like to leave with our viewers, or a little bit of a Michelle-ism that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, get on a podcast. And if you're not podcasting, and being a host is not for everybody, there are 3 different ways of podcasting. One, great business growth to be a guest on a show. So just go out there and find shows that you can become guests on. Podcast hosts are always looking for guests. Number 2, you can become a host, get your message out there in a bigger way. Or number 3, become a podcast manager where you can help manage other people's shows. And you know what? I think all 3 of those things are great opportunities right now. And if I could leave you with the one tip of success for a life full of less stress and more freedom, is to trust the process and, hire slow and let go quick. Hire slow is a part of that one, I really believe.
Yeah.
Hire slow, treat them well, and be the business that you wish that you would work for when you were an employee.
Awesome.
Thank you for that, Michelle.
Welcome.
Where can we find you?
Oh, sure. Go to outsourcing.ca, which is a bit of a real tricky one to spell. So AMPLIFYOU.ca. It's amplifyou.ca. And we are also at Instagram at amplifyou.ca. And if you want to download a workbook to find out if podcast hosting is for you, you can go to mypodcastcoach.com, and there's a workbook there for you.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. So there you have it, guys. Listen to the Podcast Queen. If you want to be heard, do your podcast. And you can reach out to Michelle. And I think that's it for today. If you want to grow your business, hire somebody that you trust, and then learn how to let go and see how things grow after that.
Yeah.
So this has been David. You're going to say something?
Yes.
Sorry.
If you enjoyed this episode or any or all of our episodes, please leave us a review here on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to us on. Reviews make us happy and give us the encouragement to keep going on and keep producing this. So
Exactly. And if you want to know more of our services, just go to www.greatworkonline.com.
And if I can say something, you guys are taking the hard work out of hiring people and hiring teams, because you come as a team. That's amazing. So I'm very excited to start working with you guys closer.
all right.
Thank you,
Michelle.
Thanks
All
for
right,
having me on.
Thank you. So this has been Pam and David, and you're listening to How to Build a Team podcast. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.